And welcome back to Janky AF. Now here we have a beautiful, striking 2004 Chevrolet Malibu in a gorgeous cranberry crimson, let's call it. Now why is this a great car? Well, chiefly because it is not a 2017 Toyota Tacoma. Let me explain.
Hey.
Chevrolet has been using the Malibu namesake since 1964, accompanying the Chevelle as a trim package and then becoming a standalone marque in 1978, kind of like how Frasier got his spin-off from Cheers. The Malibu name ended abruptly in 1983 before being revived in the 1997 model year. Originally rear-wheel drive and since the gap a front-drive car, the current period of production has now eclipsed the first period, encouraging the argument that the front-drive midsize family sedan is its leading identity, as opposed to a rear-wheel drive muscle car with two-door, convertible, and SS versions. The Malibu is also the single and only sedan Chevrolet currently produces in the United States, dispatching with the full-size Impala and pint-size Sonic, two cars I really appreciate the styling of, especially the Impala, which I thought had real presence and was a great departure from the preceding generation's rather safe styling. This Malibu is a sixth generation, which ran from model years 2004 to 2008, with the final year being limited to the Malibu Classic, a name used to designate largely fleet and rental vehicles, which was a promotion from the previous generation's version, which Chevy simply called the Chevy Classic. Within this short 5-year run, a facelift was received after only 2 years, when in 2006 the giant chrome strip bisecting the headlight and grille area was removed. Pity, because I think it was a distinctive styling cue, and was happy to see it on this version. Power came from either 144 horsepower 4-cylinder or in upscale LS and LT trims, a 201 horsepower 6-cylinder, called officially and most generically braggadociously the high-value LX9 V6. Despite the patronizing and self-debasing real people, not actors ad campaign, I always had a begrudging attraction to the current generation Malibu, and recently heard a glowing review of it from my buddy Stan, who said it has, quote, smooth power and cruises effortlessly at 93 miles per hour. Personally, I love it when a particular model just continues to survive, and enjoy watching it evolve as the culture and technology of the automotive world do the same. And if I may, here's my suggestion to Chevrolet. I'd like the next Malibu to be an all-electric platform and take its styling cues from the largely forgotten 4th generation Malibu, which ran from 1978 to 1983, and effectively ended the Malibu marque for a decade and a half. It had a simple boxy styling, was available in 2- and 4-door versions, as well as a station wagon. It also featured a plethora of engine choices, including a diesel as well as a manual transmission option, easily making it the most versatile Malibu ever offered. In fact, when rumors got around of its smooth ride and good handling, Canada received a request for 25,500 examples, all with the unique combination of the lowest powered engine, making 110 horsepower, and a 3-speed floor-mounted manual transmission. The client? Saddam Hussein, who wanted to use them as taxis. Apparently only 13,000 were actually delivered, but if anyone out there has connections to Iraq, if you manage to track one of these down, I'd make a real fair offer on it. Anyways, this combination of multiple body styles, along with what would now be retro-futuristic styling, would both make a lot of sense on an EV platform. With different battery size variations, it could compete with cars and SUVs alike, and be a rare example of the Chevrolet brand doing something interesting and cool that wasn't a Corvette. So that's my take. Now, let's enjoy a little drive, shall we?
And welcome back to Janky AF. Now here is our beautiful 2004 Chevrolet Malibu. Now as I teased in the intro, and why this car is a great car, is because it's not a 2017 Toyota Tacoma, which is Jerry's, I don't want to call it a daily driver, but his regular car. Now Jerry, who's been kind enough to loan us this car, and Janky do thank you to him for that, is a surveyor. One of those great men and women who you'll often see standing on the side of the road in a, oh, there he is now. There's Jerry. Maybe we'll get him on the camera. Jerry and Andrea. one of those great men and women who stands on the side of the road with a big tripod and looks into a big lens, and you're never sure what they're doing, other than, you know, staring at a lens to make sure something's flat or something or other. But he travels a lot. He's often on the thruway, and so he wanted a car to keep miles off his other car. Enter the Chevrolet Malibu. He had a friend who said, anyone interested in 04 Malibu? And Jerry didn't really think twice about it. And then he said, well, it's only got 22,000 original miles. Now, this was in 2016, so you can do the math, but that's very, very low miles per year. So Jerry snapped the chance to buy it up 5 years ago now, and he paid $4,000 for it, which seems like a fair price for a 22,000 mile car. He's had it ever since. Now it has, I think, about 106,000 miles on it now. He says he puts around $500 to $1,000 into it every year, which, you know, is pretty low running costs overall and nothing major. And that includes everything. That includes tires, that includes oil changes, inspections, the whole deal. So it's been a great car for him. Now, it's nothing special, obviously, but again, I love cars that have niche roles. You know, a sports car has a niche role. It's a car that you take out on the weekends, and whether it's a Ferrari or a Chevrolet Malibu, you know, every car has its role, every car has its place. What else can I tell you about it? He says he gets around 30 miles to the gallon, mostly on the highway, but that's pretty good considering also this is a V6. Now, they did offer this in a 4-cylinder. This is the 6-cylinder model. So if you're driving on the highway, you know, you want to get mileage, maybe get a little bit more in the 4, but also you have the power to change lanes and merge and pass if you're doing anything like that, as we're going to do right here. So let's see if she's got some pep. Boy, yeah, I mean, you know, the speed limit here is low, but this car really growls actually, but I think it makes over 200 horsepower in the V6. The other cool thing about this, of course, I did a little bit of an internet dive on them. Now, this is the 6th generation Malibu. They only made it from 04 to 07, I believe, so pretty short reign. And this was available in an SS version with, I believe, a 3.9 liter. I think this is a 3.5 cylinder. And the other great thing about this generation Malibu, and why I always love it, is this was the generation that they made the Malibu Max. Now, does anyone remember that? I would love to get my hands on one of those. And it was like kind of sort of this weird station wagon-y-esque thing. Although, from what I've read, Chevrolet and GM did everything they could do to not call it a station wagon, calling it an extended sedan or something like that. But it was a wagon, and it was cool that it was a wagon. I always thought that was a really cool car, and they made an SS version of that as well. And of course, I had to go on all the forums and everything and see if there was a, you know, a manual swap. And if you remember the Pontiac G6, which is another great car that sadly, I kind of think Pontiac was hitting their stride, just as an aside here, right when they got killed off, which is always sad. And I think of all the companies that got killed off, I think Pontiac's probably sort of the saddest story. You know, no disrespect to the Oldsmobile and the Hummer people out there, but the Hummer's back, as we all know. Probably better than it's ever been, honestly. And the Pontiac G6, and I believe the performance packages changed all the time. GXP, GXT, all that, GP, GPT. But they did, for 1 year, make a Pontiac G6 with a manual transmission. So I'm wondering if you could swap one of those in to like a Malibu Max and make like a, you know, SS version with a manual transmission. So anyways, that's of course the, you know, the classic car person always wants to go towards that direction, I feel like, or at least I do. Like what can we do funky with this car to make it sort of like a factory, but also like, you know, tuned or, you know, customized using factory parts, because obviously if you're gonna, you can try to put like an LS engine in here and do all that and make it rear wheel drive. I mean, the sky's the limit if you have enough money, but you know, realistic swaps and stuff that you could do to sort of like make the ultimate version of whatever this car was. It's it's kind of loud, it's kind of clunky, it feels very unrefined, I have to say, and already this is an 04, so almost 20 years old now, but everything about it is the quintessence of when you hear about cheap GM vehicles, you know, the middle 2000s. And the funny thing is, this is a Malibu, and I feel like being the 6th generation, they're still making the Malibu now. I believe they had like a 15-year gap, but other than that, they've been running since forever. And the Malibu, of course, has this very aspirational connotation to it, right? I mean, it's like sunny, beautiful California. It's almost the American version of Monte Carlo. Of course, that's another Chevrolet aspirational vehicle name. But they do not let you forget that it's a Malibu in here. There's Malibu badging on the gauge cluster, Malibu badging by your warning lights here. So that's very funny to me that, you know, the namesake continues to carry on, even though this is the most like humdrum pedestrian car ever. You know, not a lot to say in here. Chevy I mean, you know, in the land of hipsterdom, like Chevy and GM plastic interiors of the 90s and 2000s almost deserve their own appreciation for something being so uncool that it becomes cool again. You know, like I hear Adam Sandler is like the current fashion icon right now with his basketball shorts and t-shirts, a look that I myself have been, you know, rocking for some time now, but I guess that's a little bit of a not so humble brag. But it is it is funny when you get in here how much this almost feels like a Fisher-Price toy with a motor. And you have all the, you know, simulated wood grain trim and little doodads and bells and whistles. Everything, you know, the shifter is incredibly sloppy feeling, but you have some plastic wood around it. So, you know, you're living in the lap of luxury, being in a Malibu of all things and places. The gauge cluster has a miles per hour sign that's lit up like a light, which is very strange because aside from it being a speedometer, it seems pretty self-evident of what it's measuring. But they want to make sure that in all times during the day and night, the fact that they're measuring speed in this big dial is clear to you. You know, they want that to be clear to you, and it is. It has a tachometer, which is very nice. No red line. It goes up to 7, but there's no red line, so presumably the red line is 7,000, I guess. The gas light is always on, so you measure it using, you know, your odometer down here. That's fairly normal in some old cars. It does have cruise control, which, as you'll see in some of their videos, I just bought a Volkswagen Jetta from 2002 for $10, and you can check out that video. But that does not have cruise control, and that's like a German car, so, you know, Chevy's up in their game in that respect.
Oh, and one last thing. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that this car has beaded seats. Not heated seats, like I thought I heard Jerry say, but rather beaded seats, as in beads. It's personal touches like this that truly make every car a great car. Lastly, I should say that I also do quite like the pattern inlays on these factory seats and think car makers should bring this trend back.
Now this car, as I've said, is just a car that exists to not put miles on another car. It's a placeholder, it's a stand-in. So it doesn't matter, it's full of stuff in here. And I identify with this as someone who daily drives a Ford Transit. You got your snacks, you got your work gear, you got some newspaper down in the front seat just in case anything plops down in it. You have your great surveyor's jacket, which I've taken the liberty of wearing for this review. The trunk is full of stuff, which will show you. You have a great like dashboard rig setup. You have, of course, your aftermarket Bluetooth player, and then you have a myriad of clips and wires that are all very nice and neatly put together, I must say, with like clips and twist ties, and you have your phone harness here, and that connects to another wire, which connects to another wire that goes down this other wire. You have your sunglasses hanging from a beautiful clip here with another set of twist ties. Like anything you might need at a moment's notice when you're on the job site or just driving and have to find something, or GPS or navigation. So in that way, it's a very, very utilitarian car, which I really, really appreciate. There's a big box full of stuff back there. Jerry says once a year it gets a cleaning, and that's all about it needs. Now the other great benefit and why this is a great car is whenever Jerry and Andrea go down to the city to go to a concert. Oh, we're passing a Malibu Max right here. I have to pull in and drive around it just so you guys can see it. That's too good. Now, I did a terrible job in my Ford Mach-E review of trying to point the camera, but hopefully this time I have a camera right on top of the car, so I'll point it. So all you people out there, this is a Chevy Malibu Max. And you can see it's got that really cool side profile, I think. It's got a great profile. I really think the way it was designed was very beautiful. A little bit of rust on it. And that's a Malibu Max, and same generation as this one. As I'm turning the wheel, I realize the power steering is quite nice. It's nice and light, and it's not a performance car, so you don't want it to be heavy. So very easy to maneuver. The seating position is strangely high. You're kind of looking downward. I'm sure you could lower the seat a little bit, but it does offer quite a nice greenhouse. Visibility is excellent, and especially if you're on the highway needing to merge or change lanes or anything like that. Very good for that. Maybe we'll do another little pull here. It looks like we're on sort of a more main road, and we can see what kind of juice she's got. All right, let's go for it, shall we? Oh, we chirped the tires there a little bit. So again, V6 power. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, so when they go down to the city, they want to go to a show, they want to go to a concert, they might, have a couple of cold ones and feel like they don't want to drive home, so they're going to take an Uber or whatever. Jerry does not care if this car gets sideswiped, if this car gets hit, if this car gets stolen. It's kind of all the same to him, and you wouldn't want to say that about there's a great RV there. A 2017 Tacoma, which is worth, quite a bit of money, as we all know Tacomas are. So the functionality of this car is just second to none, and it functions in a lot of different ways. And I like cars like this, and I appreciate cars like this, because even though you can make fun of Chevy and make fun of the Malibu and say how it's sort of like this caricature of itself and, just a piece of 90s or 2000s GM junk, it's like a driver show car. It's the same concept. If you take an old Corvette or something and it's got some patina on it, so you don't care, let the kids sit in the seats, let people rub up against it, doesn't matter. Same concept, just in a different echelon. This car's lack of value is what gives it its value, because you really don't care what happens to it, and it's reliable enough and new enough that you're really not going to be dumping money into it. And so it's the perfect second car. I always tell people, get a second car, get a little beater car or runaround or winter rat, whatever it may be, because it really helps you preserve whatever your sort of main driver is or car that you really care about. And then you can really, and then the lack of character on this car takes on its own character, because it grows on you, because you appreciate it as a mule and a workhorse, and all the little sort of doodads or whatever it's on it. It's like, it doesn't matter what those things are, because you take on an appreciation for them that is informed by the functionality and utility that this car provides to you. So I'm going to, for once, try to make this review actually a little bit shorter. I think I've said all there is to say about the car in terms of why I think it's a great car. And thanks so much to Jerry for letting us take it out for a spin here. Thank you also to Andrea. And it's been great to see them. I'm on my final leg of my road trip, taking my Volkswagen Jetta back. You can check out those videos. And if this car doesn't prove it, no other car will, that every car is a great car. So thank you so much. This is Janky AF. Please consider subscribing. It really means a lot to us. We just hit 100 subscribers. We're on our way to get to 1,000 into monetization, hopefully. So I won't beat you over the head with it, even if I already did. And until next time, Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
To use the horn, you have to reset it.
I have to replace the fuse in this thing.
Oh my god.